Cybersecurity tips and tricks. Here we go. Here is the agenda for the presentation and the talk. So we are going to have a little bit of an input from the audience as well. So when I ask you to unmute your microphone to say a few things, please feel free to. There's no trick questions or anything, just some comments that you'd like to make. But I'll start this presentation by giving you an illustration using a bike. So we'll start with a bike illustration, and then we'll cover 4 things. What is cybersecurity? It's good to know the definition of what it is before you can actually talk about all the ins and outs of cybersecurity. Good to know what cybersecurity is first. And then we'll have a look at some common types of cybersecurity attacks. And then I'll give you some tips. And we'll finish off with a password trick. It's more of a tip than a trick, but it's some interesting information there for you to have a look at. So let's kick things off with a bike illustration. Here's a question for you. Is this bike secure? It is parked? It is locked? Is that the right type of lock? Can someone tell me if this is secure or not?
It looks secure.
The pole is high enough?
Yeah, it looks pretty secure, right? It's tied to a pole. Sorry?
If the pole is high enough?
Yes. Yes. So the lock seems pretty tight as well. So it seems pretty secure. However, it may not be. Why?
You could steal most of the bike.
Yes, this could happen, right? This could happen because the padlock is only protecting the wheel, the front wheel, but the rest of it is not protected. So how do we make this bike more secure? Any thoughts, ideas? How about this?
I would use a longer chain around both wheels and the body of the bike.
Yes, something like that. So you've got another chain here and a padlock here. So the moral of the story is that if you lock both the frame and the wheels to the stand, it is the most secure form of locking the bike, rather than just securing only one area or parts of the area. So this is just an illustration of what cybersecurity is like too. Because if you only focus on 1 or 2 things, even if you think you're protecting something, you may not be protecting it. So it's all about managing the risks and thinking about different possibilities. So with that in mind, what is cybersecurity? Have you thought about that? Before we think about the actual definition of cybersecurity, have a look at this. House, your home. How do you protect your home? What sort of things do you use to protect your home? You can unmute and tell us. What do you use to protect your homes?
Door locks?
Yeah, door locks. Most obvious one.
Camera.
Anything else? Cameras, yes.
Camera.
CCTVs, security cameras. What else?
Fences.
Neighbors.
Yes, neighbors can look after it as well. What about dogs? And be aware of dogs' signs, even if you don't have one. You know, these things are quite obvious, but have you thought about things like smoke detectors, securing your home Wi-Fi, house content insurance, and even cleaning and maintaining a good hygiene around the house is also a way of protecting the house too, right? Because it looks clean and well maintained on the outside. So by the same token, cybersecurity has multiple components and multiple ways to protect it. So what is cybersecurity? Here is a bit of formal definition of cybersecurity. It is simply a way of protecting computer systems, programs, networks, and most importantly, information, your data, against cyber attacks. Just like a home, you've got your door locks, CCTVs, dogs, neighbors. So you've got all these different components, elements, and you need to protect them against cyber attacks. That's what cybersecurity is all about. And here are some common types of cybersecurity attacks. What are they? By knowing these, you are more aware of the things that can happen. Phishing is one of the most common things, right? Have you ever received your fake emails to click on the link or offer you money? They try to get your passwords or personal information, so we need to be aware of those. The other thing is what we call a man-in-the-middle attack. So that's basically a third party intrudes into a two-way transaction and try to intercept key data from customers. So it's like eavesdropping. But what about phishing attack? Phishing is a form of phishing. It's just using voice. So it's a voice phishing, scam calls. We all have received some scam calls in our lives, right? And some of the other cyber security attacks, what we call DOS or DDoS, it stands for denial of service. Basically, what this is making services unavailable. Have you ever logged onto a website or something and the service was unavailable? They may be under attack or maybe under maintenance, but there is possibility that DDoS is in play. And there are some familiar ones, password related, password can be broken and someone try to steal your password and someone's trying to look at your key logging with a spyware to know the password that you're using. And we know viruses and malwares. And malware is a catch-all term for any type of malicious software, regardless of how it works. So in that sense, a virus is a specific type of malware that self-replicates. And how does it do it? By inserting its code into another program. And you've got some other things here, cross-site scripting and SQL injection attack. Don't worry about the technology, actual technical aspect of it. It's basically using some piece of codes to try to steal information. So just be aware that there are many different types of cybersecurity attacks out there. And just by simply knowing it, even conceptually, help us to be more vigilant and aware of the things that can happen. And here are some good cybersecurity tips. You may already know these, but it's always good to refresh those. First, know that you're a target. Hackers try to hack into something, so you're a target. And tip number 2, keep your software up to date. When you have the latest patches, latest updates, update them as soon as you can because they often address system weaknesses and what we call vulnerabilities. So the hackers cannot exploit those vulnerabilities by having the software updates up to date. And tip number 3, think twice before clicking anything. Even if it seems obvious, just have another look or to give information because the phishing and phishing scams are so prevalent these days. There's so many of them out there and they're becoming more and more sophisticated too. They look more real. So always think twice. And tip number 4, practice good password management. We'll have a look at this in the last couple of slides. And tip number 5, never leave devices unattended in a cafe or some public places, even if it's just for a few minutes, because you never know who can just come in and do something really quickly that can plant an undesirable seed in your device. Someone who's super smart, a hacker, might be able to do something. And tip number 6, use virtual private network and data encryption if you have these available and if you know what they are. And if not, you can find this on Google and try to learn more about it. Virtual private network, VPN. And tip number 7, find my iPhone on Apple devices or device manager tools on Android to track your devices, just in case you lose them. Because life is so inconvenient these days. If you lose your mobile phone, right? Basically all your life's applications are there. So the reason why we do it is to help prevent loss or theft. So here are some tips. And here is another visual that shows you different types of tips. This comes from New Zealand government CERTA-NZ site, but the concepts presented here are quite universal. So I'll go through some of these. Back up your data. Always save your data to some other device, external hard drive or cloud service, just in case you lose them. And install antivirus software, obvious, choose unique password, and set up and use two-factor authentication. This is the one that requires you to enter a code or something on your mobile. I know it can be a little bit annoying. So many applications do use them these days, but they make things more secure than just one password, right? And use creativity when you set up your password secrets, something that's easy to remember for you, but hard for others to guess. And be cautious of free Wi-Fi networks. Untrusted networks can be dangerous without password. So you may consider using a VPN on top of it, or if you have another option, or just use mobile data for a little bit, maybe may not want to use free Wi-Fi if you're using something sensitive like accessing your banking information. If you're only just browsing, maybe okay, but still just be careful not to click on anything suspicious. And be smart with social media. Always remember what you post on social media, because once you post something, it is online. Even if you have a privacy setting set at the right level, sometimes these privacy settings can change as well because the applications change. And then you have to reset it. And before you reset it, things might become public. So always be smart with what you share and don't give out your personal info easily. And the other two things here at the end, check bank statements regularly. Just keep an eye on your bank statements because it may give you the first tip off that something suspicious is happening to your account, and ring your bank immediately if you see something suspicious. And same goes with your credit card. So here are some of the tips that you can think about in your cybersecurity best practice in your own life. So with that, let me share what I call a password trick, and then we'll end the presentation and we can have some question and answers. This one, I've presented it in my previous presentation on cybersecurity for dummies. And to set a strong password, easy to remember, you can use something like this. You have a cat, for example, and your cat is a Fluffy. And you know, a weak password is Fluffy 2018. This is the year that Fluffy was born. Very easy to guess. But how to make a strong password? Fluffy is a cool cat. But you know, you use a combination of numbers and exclamation marks. But it's really easy for you to remember if you really adore your cat, right? And the other thing is a Fluffy equals one fuzzy cat, exclamation mark. Or Fluffy, double the special characters, and then cat, one cat, or something like that. Just be creative. And it's easy to remember for you, but hard for others to guess. The other alternative is to use a password manager. I know there is some questions around the security of the password manager, but they are super secure in there by design, but always be wary of giving your password information to a software vendor at the back of your mind. However, they are known to be secure, especially these three products, the LastPass, KeePass, and 1Password. But any other password managers, have a good review of the product and the features and the history as well. Do your own research before you use them, because not all password managers are created equal. And here is another password trick. This is an interesting visual. Did you see this chart? Time it takes a hacker to crack your password in 2022. If the number of characters go up, obviously things become more difficult to crack. But if numbers only, instantly they can crack it, even if it's 11 characters. But if it's lowercase letters, it will take more time for them. And if it's upper and lowercase, it obviously takes even longer. Numbers, uppercase, lowercase, even longer, and including symbols, a lot longer as the number of characters increase. But the interesting thing is, look at this number 6 here. Apple mouse plant takes 3 million years to crack. What? It looks so simple, right? It looks so simple, but why is that so? Because of the way it is constructed, because Apple mouse plant is 15 characters long. So by design, it is going to be difficult to crack because there are so many combinations and permutations for each of these spaces, right? So 15 characters. And if you, by using the combination of upper and lower case letters, it just takes a long time. So even if it's just something simple, if you use in the right combination with the right number of characters, that can be a difficult password to crack. And you would think that something like this would take longer, right? Because it's got so many different combinations of characters, numbers, and the special character, right? But in reality, this is actually a more difficult password. So this gives a very interesting take on how you make your password. And as you can find out more information from this link here. I'll share this presentation at the end. So with that, I'd like to end the formal part of the presentation and be cyber smart. Thank you for your attention. Let's have a quick Q&A for a couple of minutes and then we can wrap up.